My roommate bragged that her boyfriend donated $2 million to the school. But the anonymous donor of that $2 million was me. And her boyfriend was actually one of my family's security staff. Recently, my roommate, Madison Taylor, started dating a guy she believed to be super wealthy, and she flaunted it around the dorm nonstop. Hey, check out this Cartier bracelet he got me. Isn't it stunning? Madison raised her wrist to catch the light, making sure the bracelet sparkled just right. Wow, that must have cost a fortune. Your boyfriend treats you so well. Does he have any friends? Maybe set us up. The other girls gathered around her, showering her with admiration. Madison even handed out some of her high-end cosmetics, which made the others scramble to grab whatever they could, fawning over her all the more. I was sitting off to the side, quietly reading, avoiding the attention, but this caught Madison's eye, and she shot me a sour look. Leah, don't you think this Cartier bracelet is stunning? Way better than that plain silver band you always wear, right? I glanced at her bracelet and immediately recognized it as a knockoff. My simple silver bracelet? A limited edition Tiffany's piece. But seeing Madison so proud of her luxury item, I bit back any comments. Yeah, it's really pretty. My little silver bracelet is nothing special. Madison's grin grew, clearly satisfied, and she came over and snapped my book shut. Leah, you really need to invest in some decent jewelry. It's embarrassing standing next to you. I was left speechless. Everyone knew Madison's background wasn't exactly high-end. She came from a modest family and used to live in thrifted tees and jeans before this boyfriend showed up. Now she acted like she was some sort of socialite. Another roommate, Carrie, joined Madison, linking her arm with hers. Don't worry about her. You and she aren't even in the same league. Let's have dinner tonight. I want to hear more about your boyfriend. Madison smirked and replied loudly, Can't. I'm going out with my boyfriend tonight. Jealousy flashed in Carrie's eyes. Oh, somewhere fancy, right? Don't forget to post it. Madison ignored her, focused on her makeup for a good 15 minutes before putting on her one designer dress that she claimed cost over $500, strutting out like she was royalty. That evening, I ordered spicy ramen and was eating contentedly in the dorm when Carrie shrieked over her phone. Madison just posted, Look, caviar, truffle pasta, filet mignon. A group of roommates crowded around to see, and Carrie glanced at my ramen with a mocking look. Some people go on upscale dates with trust fund guys and others stay home with takeout. Such a huge difference, huh? Seeing I wasn't reacting, Carrie waved her phone in front of my face. See? Madison and her boyfriend are just so perfect together. I glanced at the picture, and immediately, my interest spiked. The trust fund guy with his arm around Madison was my family's new security guard. My dad made his fortune with a major investment success, and by the time I was in high school, we had everything: designer clothes, private chauffeurs, and more. But the downside? I almost got kidnapped. After that, Dad insisted I keep a low profile when I went to college. Though he bought a home for me in Boston, close to my campus, he encouraged me to stay in the dorms like any other student. I was still used to quality clothes, so when people noticed, I'd just call them knockoffs to keep the profile low. Eventually, everyone thought I had a strange obsession with fake brands. I didn't care. I was here to study. My dad never had the chance to go to college, so he always told me, we may only have money, but you work hard and make me proud. I came to college with a goal to earn scholarships every year. Money didn't matter. It was about the honor. I spent most of my time in the library and rarely went back to the house Dad bought. Recently, we had to replace one of our security guards, so the former one recommended his nephew, James Henry. He seemed trustworthy, so I hired him without hesitation. And here he was, passing himself off as Madison's wealthy boyfriend. Madison returned from her date wearing a fake Chanel outfit and carrying a pile of gifts. She unwrapped them one by one, while the roommates swooned. Madison, that Chanel looks amazing on you. And a Gucci perfume, too? Can I hold it for a sec? Madison basked in their admiration, even sneaking a smug look at me while flaunting a designer bag. Hey, Leah, didn't you say you have a similar Hermes? Want to bring it out so we can compare? I pulled out an earbud, barely reacting as Madison opened my locker. She placed my Hermes bag beside hers and raised her voice. Wow, Leah, your bag doesn't quite look like mine, does it? The difference was obvious. Madison's was shinier, had thicker edges, and felt smoother. All signs of a knockoff. Carrie caught Madison's hint and chimed in. Oh, yeah. Leah started college with knockoffs. Makes sense that her bag isn't the real deal. She continued. Leah, buying fake designer stuff doesn't change where you come from. Flashing fakes only clouds your perspective. They expected me to shrink, but I stayed calm, resisting the urge to whip out the receipts on the spot. Dad's advice echoed in my mind, so I reined it in. Madison, did you ask before going through my things? And Carrie, your flattery skills are top-notch. You two make a great team. Madison scoffed and picked up a pair of scissors. Well, if I hadn't looked, I wouldn't know how far your vanity goes. I'll be nice and help by cutting up this knockoff. I replied calmly, Madison, even if this is a fake Hermes, it's still worth thousands. Can you cover that? After a pause, Madison backed down, sulking as she put the scissors away. I didn't give her much thought, focusing on earning a scholarship. My GPA was the highest in the department. I aced all my exams and participated in every scholarship-eligible event. So imagine my shock on award day when Madison's name was at the top for the National Merit Scholarship, while I wasn't listed, not even for a minor award. Fuming, I checked my records. My scores were top-notch, except in character, where Ms. Dana Lynch had marked me as unsatisfactory. Heart-pounding, I went to Ms. Lynch's office. Inside, I found Madison, smiling smugly. Ignoring Madison, I asked, Ms. Lynch, I have a question about the scholarship results. Ms. Lynch sighed and said, Leah, academics aren't everything. You lack teamwork and character, so I couldn't recommend you for the scholarship. I was stunned. As class rep, I got along with everyone, often lending my notes. I hadn't done anything to deserve this, except perhaps clash with my roommates. Madison's guilty expression told me enough. Taking a deep breath, I addressed Ms. Lynch. Basing this on one person's words seems unfair. Ms. Lynch's face hardened. Are you questioning my decision? Madison added, Oh, Ms. Lynch, don't bother with her. Leah can be pretty lowbrow. I couldn't help but notice Ms. Lynch's Tiffany bracelet and imitation, gifted by Madison. Ms. Lynch, that Tiffany bracelet. Madison gave it to you, didn't she? Leaving her speechless, I said, If I can't find justice here, I'll go to the dean. Madison sneered. Go ahead. Let's see you try. I called the dean's office, and when I couldn't reach him, sent a detailed email with all my evidence. After a week of waiting and disappointment, I'd almost given up when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Dad. Remember your old man. Now that you've won, keep it up. Then I got a call from the dean, just as Madison walked in. The dean's voice echoed over speakerphone. According to school policy, your roommate will face disciplinary action and return the scholarship. Madison laughed, thinking it was a prank. But her smile vanished as her phone rang. It was Ms. Lynch. When Madison answered the phone and heard Ms. Lynch on the other end, her expression changed drastically. She went from confident to confused, then to something close to panic. She barely hung up before storming out of the room, and I could hear her furious voice echoing down the hall. I'd heard the rumors and knew she wouldn't take this quietly. The next day, she showed up at the dean's office, ready to argue and, in her mind, intimidate. I watched from a distance as she walked in, determined, and I decided to discreetly observe while she tried to speak to the dean, using her last card. You don't know who you're dealing with, sir. My boyfriend is responsible for the $2 million donation the college received. If I'm punished this way, well, he might just withdraw the donation. That would be a shame, wouldn't it? Madison said, with a carefully rehearsed confidence. The dean listened patiently, without expression, before responding calmly. Really? That's interesting, Madison, because the donor of that amount has already come forward, and that person is not your boyfriend. Madison's face went pale instantly. What? She stammered, trying to process the information. It was then that I, maintaining a firm posture, stepped into the office. Her expression was one of total shock when our eyes met, and I could see she was finally beginning to understand what was happening. "It's me, Madison. I'm the one who made the donation. And that millionaire boyfriend you love to show off? He's just one of my family's security guards." I spoke firmly, but without arrogance, as she looked at me, speechless, trying to process the blow. The dean watched the scene with a hint of satisfaction, as if he had been waiting for this moment. I hadn't intended to humiliate her publicly, but Madison had crossed every line. She stole what was rightfully mine, lied, manipulated. I couldn't just keep standing by. She started mumbling, desperately searching for a way out. You're lying. That's impossible. You? Why would you hide in the dorm? Why would you wear such simple clothes?" "Because I don't need to prove anything to anyone, Madison. And that's the difference between us." I held her gaze, letting my words sink in. "You chose a path of lies and manipulation, while I just wanted to study in peace." The dean cleared his throat and spoke, with no patience for Madison's empty arguments. "Given the proven fraud and the attempt at manipulation, Madison, you'll lose your scholarship and be removed from the dormitory. However, you may continue your studies at the college, like any other student who behaves honestly and responsibly." The shock in her eyes was devastating. In that moment, she realized she had lost everything she thought she had gained: the fake glamour, others' admiration, the illusion of status. And now, like everyone else, she would have to face the reality she had always tried to hide. A few weeks passed, and the consequences continued to unfold. Madison was forced to leave the dorm, returning to a life she had so deeply resented. Without the scholarship, her time at college became much harder. Now, her peers knew who she really was: a simple girl without the fortune or privileges she'd tried so hard to sell. The looks of admiration she once received were now ones of pity or disdain. And she knew all too well that the attention she once craved had turned into something that deeply hurt her. Despite it all, I kept my low profile. I didn't make an effort to spread what happened or brag, but the rumors had already circulated. Some people came up to me, trying to get closer, praising my discretion and generosity. However, I turned down the fake friends. I was there to study and focus on my future, something my father had always encouraged me to do. Curiously, Madison was still around. She seemed so lost and alone that, at times, I found myself wondering if all of this had truly been worth it. But when I remembered how she tried to manipulate and steal my merit, any compassion faded away. Madison would learn a valuable lesson. When I saw Madison leaving the dean's office, her face red and her eyes puffy, I knew this was only the beginning of what she truly deserved. Even though she had lost her scholarship and her dorm, she still had the chance to stay in college. And honestly, that didn't seem fair to me. Madison had ruined so much for me, stepped over others, and manipulated people without a hint of remorse. If she thought she could escape this with just a suspension and the loss of her scholarship, she was sorely mistaken. I wanted her to know what it was like to lose everything. Over the following weeks, Madison moved around campus like a shadow, always keeping her head down, avoiding people's stares and comments. Her former friends, those who used to admire her, now ignored her or whispered about her as she passed by. But I knew that wasn't enough. The anger and hurt I felt hadn't faded. In fact, it only grew every time I saw her on campus, as if she still thought she could recover everything she had lost. That's when an idea started to take shape in my mind. Madison still had some credibility. A few professors and students believed she'd just made one bad decision. But I knew how to shatter that last bit of trust completely. I started going through her social media and our old conversations, looking for something I could use against her. In one of our rare exchanges, I found something interesting: a heated argument Madison had with a classmate over a project. At the time, she had mentioned that if she wanted to, she could easily get access to past exams. It was probably a throwaway line, said to impress her classmate. But I knew that could be the seed for something much bigger. I crafted a meticulous plan. The following week, I got hold of an old test from the course and altered a few answers to make it look like someone had tried to adapt it. Then, using a fake profile on the college email system, I sent an anonymous report to the academic department claiming that Madison was involved in a cheating scheme to get tests and answers before exams. The report was detailed enough to sound real, but vague enough not to raise suspicion about me. In the email, I described how I'd heard Madison bragging that she could get hold of the tests and share them with other students, claiming she charged money for it. I also mentioned that others were involved, without giving names, which left room for the investigators to imagine the worst. I knew that with Madison's reputation already shattered, it would only take a small accusation for everyone to believe she was guilty. The investigation moved quickly. Madison was called into the department, where they confronted her with the accusation. She denied it vehemently, but the administrators were already predisposed to believe her guilt. The rumor spread like wildfire across campus. Now, not only students but also professors looked at her with suspicion. I watched her walk with her head even lower, her hands trembling as she held her books, her shoulders hunched as if she carried the weight of 1,000 judgments. In no time, the college's disciplinary committee decided to expel her for a serious violation of the academic code of ethics. It was an extreme decision, but Madison had lost all credibility. The word of an anonymous report held more weight than her defense. She had no one to support her, no one to believe in her innocence. She tried desperately to appeal the decision, but her efforts were ignored. In everyone's eyes, Madison was guilty. The day I saw her leave college, I watched from afar as she carried a small suitcase, walking toward the campus exit. There were no goodbyes, no one offering comfort or support. She was completely alone, expelled from a place where she once reigned with false arrogance and pretension. I felt a strange sense of justice settling inside me. With each step Madison took, it was as if the weight of all the humiliation she'd made me feel lifted away. Finally, she was paying the price for everything. Rumors about Madison soon faded, and campus life went on as if she had never been there. As for me, I continued my studies, focusing on the goals I had set for myself. I was close to graduating, with an impeccable GPA and a respectable track record at college. Some classmates tried to get close to me, but I kept my discretion, refusing false friends. I had learned the value of trusting only myself. Madison was never seen again. Some people said she had moved to another city, trying to start over without the weight of shame she carried here. Other rumors said she went back to her hometown, where she had to face her family's disappointment. But honestly, I didn't care. To me, Madison was just a distant memory, a ghost who had tried to ruin my life, but who, in the end, had destroyed herself. And when I thought about it, I didn't feel bad. I felt no regret or guilt. She deserved every consequence.